You know that feeling when you wake up, check your phone, and the first headline makes you sit up straighter in bed. That's exactly the kind of morning we're having today. There's a story that's cutting across conversations everywhere, from kitchen tables to office break rooms, and it's shaping up to be one of those moments that really makes people stop and think. Whether you're tuning in on your commute, scrolling during lunch, or just hanging out at home, this is one you'll want to pay attention to. Because it's not just news, it's something that touches everyday life in ways we might not realize at first glance. And trust me, by the time we're done, you'll have the full picture, the context you need, and a few "wow, I didn't know that" moments to take with you. So buckle up, because we're diving in. Let's start with the basics. Headlines can sometimes feel overwhelming, but breaking them down into clear facts makes everything a lot easier. Today's main story revolves around a development that has been building quietly for months, but now it's front and center. What's important here is not just what happened, but why it matters. It involves technology, economics, and yes, even a bit of culture. And while on the surface, it might seem like just another update in the endless news cycle, this one has real potential to impact how we work, shop, and even communicate with each other. When stories start to blur the line between business, personal life, and the future of society, that's when you know you're looking at something worth breaking down carefully. So what exactly triggered all the buzz? A major announcement came out, and it didn't take long before social media lit up like wildfire. On one platform after another, people were weighing in, sharing hot takes, and even posting memes within minutes. That's the pace of news today. Something goes public, and instantly, it becomes a shared conversation. What's fascinating is how quickly it went from niche interest to mainstream talking point. Normally, stories like this would take weeks to build up. But in the age of instant connection, it's almost like flipping a switch. The moment it went live, reactions poured in from celebrities, influencers, industry experts, and everyday people alike. And when you see that kind of range, it's a pretty good sign that the story has layers. Now, let's talk numbers, because numbers rarely lie. Reports are showing just how massive the response has been, not only online, but also in terms of real-world attention. From Google search spikes to trending hashtags, the data paints a clear picture. This isn't just a passing headline, it's a moment. For businesses, it's a sign of shifting consumer interest. For everyday folks, it's proof that something in the cultural current is shifting. You know, when everyone at the coffee shop seems to be chatting about the same thing. Multiply that by millions, and that's where we're at right now. And here's the kicker. Analysts are saying this wave of attention might just be the beginning, not the peak. That's why we're taking a closer look. One of the most interesting aspects is the human side of the story. We often get caught up in the technical details, but behind every headline are people whose lives are being shaped in real time. In this case, there are workers adapting to new realities, families wondering what the changes will mean, and communities trying to figure out where they stand. It's one of those rare moments where the personal and the public overlap. You can't just scroll past it, because sooner or later, it's going to connect with something you deal with personally. Whether that's your job, your shopping habits, or even just how you spend time with friends and family. And that's exactly why it's worth unpacking slowly, without rushing to conclusions. Let's zoom out for a second and place this story in the bigger picture. Over the past few years, we've seen similar developments pop up, sometimes with big promises and other times with big challenges. History tells us that whenever something new gains this much attention, it doesn't just fade quietly. It leaves a mark. Maybe it changes the way businesses operate. Maybe it shifts consumer expectations. Sometimes it even sparks new laws or regulations. The point is, these moments rarely exist in isolation. They're part of a larger trend line, one that stretches from the past and points into the future. If you connect the dots, you start to see not just a headline, but a pattern. And that's where it gets really interesting. And of course, no big story comes without some debate. Anytime something new comes along, you're going to hear two sides: the optimists who see endless opportunity, and the skeptics who urge caution. Both perspectives are valuable. The optimists remind us to embrace change, explore new possibilities, and not let fear hold us back. The skeptics remind us to ask tough questions, demand accountability, and think about long-term consequences. Together, they create a balance that helps everyone move forward a little smarter. In fact, when you hear the back and forth happening around this story, it's a reminder that discussion is healthy. It's what keeps us from rushing headfirst into something without thinking it through, or missing out on something valuable because we hesitated too much. Now here's something worth noting. This story isn't just national, it's global. Sure, the main developments are happening right here in the United States, but the ripple effects are already being felt across borders. Other countries are watching closely, some with curiosity and others with concern. That's because in today's interconnected world, what happens in one place rarely stays there. Whether it's markets reacting, industry shifting, or simply people exchanging ideas online, everything is linked. And sometimes the rest of the world reflects back an angle we might not see ourselves. By looking at how international audiences are responding, we actually get a better understanding of what's at stake right here at home. So where does this all go from here? That's the million-dollar question. If history is any guide, the next few weeks will be crucial. Early reactions are often emotional, but what really matters is what sticks once the dust settles. Will businesses adjust their strategies? Will consumers actually change their habits? Will lawmakers step in with new rules? These are the areas to watch. And remember, stories like this don't always move in a straight line. There can be setbacks, breakthroughs, and sometimes unexpected twists that keep everyone on their toes. That's why staying informed isn't just about reading today's headlines. It's about tracking the story as it develops. So here's the takeaway. This is one of those stories you'll probably hear about again and again, and for good reason. It's not just news. It's a reflection of how quickly our world is changing and how connected all of us really are. The fact that it's sparking conversation everywhere is a sign of its importance. Whether you're excited, cautious, or just curious, the best thing you can do is keep an open mind, pay attention to the facts, and be ready to adapt. Because if there's one thing we can count on, it's that change doesn't wait for anyone. And as always, we'll be right here breaking it down, keeping it clear, and making sure you're never left out of the loop.